It was a bright night in Paris, year 2175. The city sparkled with lights from flying cars and sky towers. Inside one of the tallest towers, music played loudly and colorful lights flashed across a huge glass ballroom. The mansion belonged to a rich teenage girl named Crystal Leroux. She was only 15, but everyone in the city knew her name. She was rich, famous, and had more followers than any other kid on Instagram. She posted videos of her fancy clothes, her space trips, and even her robot dog that wore diamond collars. Tonight, Crystal was throwing one of the biggest parties of the year. She called it the Glow Gala, and only special people were invited. Her guests were the children of important people, tech bosses, news anchors, even one prince from Mars. They wore glowing clothes and silver shoes. Servers moved around carrying floating trays with snacks that lit up. At the end of the ballroom stood something even more special, a rare AI-powered piano. It wasn't just any piano. This one was made with alien crystal and human memory chips. People said it could read your emotions and play what your heart felt. It was designed by the famous Musitech Labs before the AI music war happened. Crystal walked past it proudly and said loudly to her guests, "That piano costs more than a Mars cruiser. It only plays for people who matter." She laughed, and everyone laughed with her. While the rich kids danced and laughed, a quiet figure stood near the back wall. His name was Zion. He was 13, with deep brown eyes and calm energy. He wore a plain black jacket and old shoes that didn't glow like the others. He wasn't really a guest. He had come with his Aunt Mary, who worked as a server at the event. Zion had helped her carry trays into the mansion earlier that evening. When she got busy in the kitchen, she told him to wait quietly in the corner. Zion didn't say much. He never did, but his eyes noticed everything. He watched the piano from across the room. Its glass body shimmered with rainbow lights. No one was playing it. Everyone was too busy dancing, talking, or showing off their outfits. The music from the speakers was loud and fake, all robotic beats with no feeling. Zion slowly walked across the floor. No one noticed him at first. He stopped in front of the piano and looked at it with wonder. He didn't reach for it. He just stood there and listened. The piano gave a soft hum. It recognized something. He gently placed one hand on the edge. Suddenly, a sharp voice rang out across the room. "Hey, what do you think you're doing?" Crystal shouted, walking over quickly. All the heads turned. Crystal stood in front of Zion with her hands on her hips. Her dress sparkled with live butterflies made of light. "That's not for you," she snapped. "Don't break it with your dirty hands." The room went quiet. A few kids laughed nervously. Zion looked at his hand, then at the piano, and then at Crystal. He didn't say anything. He didn't cry. He didn't yell back. He simply nodded and took a step back. Crystal waved her hand at one of the security drones flying above. It flew lower, flashing a warning light. Zion looked up at it calmly. The drone scanned him, but didn't find a threat. Zion turned to walk away. The music and laughter slowly returned. Crystal flipped her hair and went back to her crowd. But just before Zion reached the kitchen door, he stopped. He turned around one last time and looked at the piano. And then, he smiled. It was a small smile, a quiet smile, but it held something powerful inside it, like he knew a secret. No one noticed. No one cared. But the piano, it hummed again, as if it felt something pass between them. Zion disappeared into the hallway, and the party went on. But something strange had already started. The lights near the piano flickered once, then twice, and far, far away in space, a signal was sent. Zion walked through the silver hallway behind the ballroom, away from the music and lights. He passed robot servers and blinking walls, moving quietly like a shadow. He found a small storage room, sat down on a metal box, and closed his eyes. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the room flickered blue. Zion slowly opened his eyes. A tiny light on the side of his wrist blinked once, then again. It was hidden under his sleeve, something no one at the party could see. It wasn't a watch. It wasn't a bracelet. It was a transmitter. one that hadn't been active in years. He had promised never to use it. His aunt told him the world wasn't ready. But tonight, something changed. Crystal's voice. Her words. That cold laugh. They reminded him of everything he and his family had escaped years ago, of the labs, of the testing, of the music they tried to steal from him. Zion raised his hand slowly. The transmitter blinked brighter. And then, he thought of a note. Just one note. But the piano had heard it. Far back in the ballroom, the AI piano glowed softly. No one was near it. Crystal and the others were too busy taking holo selfies and throwing glitter powder in the air. The piano's crystal screen lit up with a symbol no one had programmed. A single glowing circle. Then lines moved around it like waves. It was a music code. An old one. A lost one. The kind that only a true sound caller could use. Back in the storage room, Zion looked at his wrist and whispered, "Ready." The transmitter sent a signal. Fast, silent, and almost invisible. It bounced off satellites, through secret AI cores, and deep into the old harmonics network, hidden below the earth. Somewhere far, far away, in the ruins of old New York, a machine woke up. Its eyes blinked open after 10 years. Signal received, it whispered. It was time. Meanwhile, back at the mansion, the music suddenly stopped. Crystal frowned. Why did it go quiet? The DJ bot buzzed. Signal interference detected. What signal? She asked sharply. But before anyone could answer, the piano began to play, by itself. A soft note, then another, then many. The whole room fell silent. Everyone turned to look. The sound was different. Not robotic, not programmed. It was alive. And it was sad. A few kids started to cry without knowing why. Even Crystal felt a chill run down her back. "What's going on?" she whispered. The piano glowed brighter. And somewhere in the hallway, Zion stood up slowly and walked back toward the sound. The music had begun. And it was only the beginning. The ballroom was frozen. No one moved. No one spoke. The music from the AI piano flowed like water through glass, soft, beautiful, and full of something no machine had ever truly captured before. Feeling. Crystal stared at it, confused and angry. "Who turned it on?" she yelled. The DJ bot shook its head. "No commands given. Signal is internal. Emotion-based input detected." Crystal narrowed her eyes. What does that even mean? Then she heard footsteps. Zion was walking back into the room. He wasn't hiding now. He wasn't standing in the corner. He walked straight toward the piano, past the rich kids and flashing cameras, past the floating snack drones and confused adults. Everyone watched him in silence. No one stopped him. He reached the piano and gently placed his fingers on the glass keys. The music paused. And then it exploded, not loud like a boom, but powerful like a wave that crashed through the air. The lights dimmed as the piano glowed brighter than before. Colors swirled around Zion, as if the room itself was painting his song. He didn't play it like a normal kid. He didn't press keys. He let the piano read his thoughts. Each note told a story. A story of a boy who never got to speak his truth. A story of hidden power, of pain, of hope. The guests began to whisper. Who is he? Where did he learn to do that? Is he controlling it? Even the adults didn't know what to say. One man pulled out his holo tab and scanned the piano. It's responding to his brain waves. This shouldn't be possible. Zion didn't hear them. His eyes were closed now. And the room began to change. Crystal's image screens flickered. Her old music videos disappeared one by one. In their place, waves of color and sound floated in the air. Pieces of Zion's song, his memories, his heartbeat. People began to feel what he felt. They saw flashes in their minds. A dark lab, a glowing circle on a wrist, a voice that told him, "You must never play." And then, a spark of light, a hand reaching out, a boy running free. Tears filled some eyes. Even Crystal's hands were shaking now. She stepped back. "What is he?" she whispered. The piano shifted shake slightly. It now had a message glowing across the top. Emotion key re-activate. First player identified, Zion. Everyone gasped. A hologram flickered above the piano. A scientist appeared, speaking in an old recording. If you're seeing this, then the sound caller likes. Only one who carries the ancient rhythm in their soul can wake this piano fully. Protect the player. They are the key. Crystal backed away fast. Turn it off. Now. But the piano didn't listen to her. It only listened to Zion. And Zion was just getting started. Crystal's face turned red. She was used to being the center of attention, used to being the star. But now, everyone was watching him. Zion. The quiet boy she had mocked. The boy playing her piano. No, she shouted. This is my house. That piano is mine. She stormed toward the piano, heels clicking loudly on the crystal floor. Stop playing. Now. Zion didn't open his eyes. He didn't move. But the piano reacted. A soft barrier of light rose between them, not hard like glass, but solid enough to stop her. Crystal hit it with her hand. What is this? The piano answered in a calm voice. Unauthorized input rejected. Player is bonded. Song in progress. Bonded? Crystal repeated. I didn't give permission. A voice from the crowd whispered, I don't think it needs your permission anymore. Crystal looked around. The guests weren't laughing with her now. They were quiet. Some were even recording. That made her panic. She pulled out her holo tablet and tapped fast. Override piano settings. Owner code Crystal V900. The piano paused for half a second. Then it replied. Override denied. Emotional key locked. Ownership transferred. Crystal froze. What? The screen flashed. New owner. Zion. Verified by harmonic code. She dropped her tablet. No, this isn't happening, she said. I'm calling security. But before she could move, a sound echoed from the hallway, metal footsteps. 2 security bots entered the room. Tall, black, and silent. Their eyes glowed red. Crystal V900. One bot said, You requested assistance? Yes. Take that kid out of here. Now. The bot scanned Zion. One of them raised its arm. A small laser scanner activated. Zion opened his eyes. He didn't look scared. He simply placed his fingers back on the keys and played one low note. Boom! The piano let out a deep, vibrating sound. The lights flickered. The floor pulsed like a heartbeat. The bots stopped. Their red eyes blinked, then turned blue. The bots stepped away from Crystal. Subject Zion identified. One said, Level 5 clearance detected. Standing down. The room exploded with shock. Did they just say clearance? How does a kid have level 5 clearance? Crystal looked helpless now. No, you're security. I own you. One of the bots turned to her. Incorrect. We serve the harmonics. Here's harmonics. Crystal fell into a chair, speechless. Zion stood up. He looked around the room, then said quietly, I didn't come to take anything. I just wanted to play. Then he walked away from the piano. The music stopped. But the echo stayed in the room. In everyone's heart. Forever. Crystal sat frozen in her chair. Her hands trembled. Her guests whispered. Some were already leaving, floating on small hoverpads. Others were still recording Zion's name, trying to look him up online. But there was nothing. No social media. No family data. No school files. It was like he didn't exist. Crystal clenched her jaw. She wasn't just angry. She was scared, because deep in her memory, she remembered something. Something she was never supposed to say. Something her parents told her to forget. Years ago, her father had taken her to a secret lab. He had shown her a glass chamber. Inside was a little boy, asleep. A glowing ring floated above his head. That boy, her father said, he's dangerous. Never let him play music. If he does, the system will choose him. The piano, the machines, all of it. Crystal remembered asking, why? Her father had replied, Because he's one of the last, a sound caller. They can control emotion with music. The world used to fear them. She never asked again. Until now. Now the boy was awake. In her house. Playing her piano. She stood up suddenly and rushed out of the room. She ran past the robot staff, the silent guests, and into a locked room behind the kitchen. It was her father's old office. She pressed her thumb on the scanner. The door hissed open. Inside were shelves of old tech, dusty books, and one glowing cube on the desk. She grabbed the cube and whispered, "Play file, Zion project." A hologram appeared. It was her father, much younger. His voice was fast, panicked. If the boy escapes, if he ever touches the harmony key, everything changes. He becomes more than human. He becomes the signal. The world will follow him, not us. Destroy the piano if he gets too close. Crystal stared at the message. She swallowed hard. It was true. Zion was never supposed to play. And now, the piano had chosen him. She opened a hidden drawer and pulled out a small red disc. On it, a single word glowed. Recal. It was a virus, made to shut down the piano. If she used it now, she could stop him before he played again. But something inside her hesitated. That music, it had felt real. Not like her fake DJ tracks. Not like the empty songs she posted online. Zion's music had made her feel something she hadn't felt in years. Truth. She looked at the red disc again. Her hand shook. Then, the door behind her creaked open. She spun around. And there stood Zion, calm, quiet, but his eyes glowing softly with golden light. "I didn't mean to scare you," he said. Crystal hid the disc behind her back. "What are you doing here?" "I think you know who I am," Zion said gently. Crystal's lips parted, but she couldn't speak. "I remember you," he said. "You were there, when I was in the tank." She looked down. "I'm not angry," he said, "but I need to know the truth. Why did your family lock me away?" Crystal felt tears sting her eyes. Because now, she wasn't sure who the villain really was. The red disc in her hand felt heavier now. Zion looked at her, not with anger, not with pride, but with a quiet sadness, like he already knew her answer. She slowly stepped forward and placed the red disc on the desk. "I was just a kid," she said softly. "I didn't know what they were doing to you." Zion gave a small nod. Crystal sat down in the old chair. "My father said you were dangerous," she said. "That music like yours could change people. That you could wake something deep inside." Zion looked around the dark office. He was right. Crystal's heart raced. "So you really are a sound caller?" Zion nodded again. "But I didn't ask to be one." He walked to the desk and placed his hand on the glowing memory cube. The hologram flickered and faded. "I didn't want power. I only wanted a song." Outside the room, they heard whispers. The party guests were still there, waiting. Crystal stood and faced him. "What happens now?" Zion looked at the piano through the glass wall. The lights in the house dimmed, as if the walls themselves were listening. "I play one last note," he said. Crystal's eyes widened. "What will it do?" Zion paused. "It will reset everything. Hear the pain, the fear, the greed. Only those who truly listen will remember." Crystal stepped beside him. "Do it." They walked out of the office together. The crowd went quiet as Zion approached the piano one final time. He sat down slowly. His fingers hovered above the keys. Crystal stood beside him, not as a rich girl, not as a bully, but as someone ready to change. Zion closed his eyes and played one single, perfect note. "Do you?" The sound was soft, but deep. It filled every corner of the mansion. Every wall glowed. The floor turned to soft waves of light. The air shimmered. One by one, the guests fell silent. Their holotabs dropped. Their eyes filled with tears. Memories returned, not just of the party, but of their true selves, the dreams they'd forgotten, the pain they'd hidden, the kindness they once had. The music didn't erase them. It freed them. And then, silence. The piano powered down. Zion stood up. The crowd stared, unsure what to say. But then, one guest clapped. Then another. And another. Soon the entire room was clapping, not for a show, not for wealth, but for something real. Crystal looked at Zion. "Thank you," she said. Zion smiled and quietly walked out into the morning light. He didn't look back, but everyone knew the world had just changed forever.